When most people think about protecting their kidneys, they immediately start looking for a special food, a miracle supplement, or the latest health trend. But kidney health doesn't begin with a magic ingredient. It begins with the decisions you make every single morning, starting with the very first thing you put into your body. Think about what happens while you're asleep. Your body has been working all night. Your kidneys haven't taken a break. They have continued filtering your blood, balancing minerals, removing waste products, and helping regulate your body's fluids. By the time you wake up, your body is ready for nourishment, not another challenge. Unfortunately, many people begin their day in exactly the wrong way. They grab a sugary pastry, pour a bowl of sweetened cereal, drink a large glass of fruit juice, or stop for a processed breakfast sandwich on the way to work. These foods may seem harmless because they're marketed as breakfast foods, but they create a rapid rise in blood sugar and insulin. That spike doesn't just affect your energy levels. Over time, it contributes to inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and increased stress on organs that are already working hard, including your kidneys. The kidneys are incredibly resilient organs, but they are not indestructible. Every day, they respond to changes in blood pressure, blood sugar, hydration, and the overall quality of your diet. When blood sugar remains elevated for years, the tiny filtering units inside the kidneys begin to suffer damage. High blood pressure places additional strain on those delicate blood vessels, gradually reducing their ability to filter efficiently. That's why diabetes and hypertension remain the two leading causes of chronic kidney disease around the world. Now, here's the encouraging news. The first meal of the day offers an opportunity to change that trajectory. Breakfast is not simply about satisfying hunger. It's about setting the metabolic tone for the hours ahead. A balanced, kidney-friendly breakfast helps stabilize blood sugar, reduces unnecessary insulin spikes, supports healthy blood pressure, and provides your body with nutrients instead of empty calories. I often remind patients that your body doesn't recognize breakfast foods. It only recognizes nutrients. It doesn't know whether oatmeal is considered breakfast or dinner. It doesn't care whether eggs are traditionally eaten in the morning. What matters is how those foods affect your metabolism. Your kidneys respond to physiology, not tradition. This shift in thinking is incredibly powerful. Instead of asking, what do people normally eat for breakfast? Ask yourself, what kind of breakfast helps my body function better? That's a completely different question, and it usually leads to much healthier choices. Another common misunderstanding is the belief that eating more automatically gives you more energy. In reality, the quality of your food matters far more than the quantity. A breakfast loaded with refined carbohydrates may leave you feeling energized for an hour, only to experience fatigue and hunger shortly afterward. On the other hand, a meal built around whole, minimally processed foods provides steadier energy because it avoids dramatic swings in blood sugar. Your kidneys benefit from that stability just as much as the rest of your body. It's also important to remember that kidney health is rarely determined by one meal or one day. It's the result of thousands of small decisions repeated over months and years. Every healthy breakfast is another investment in your future. Every morning is another opportunity to reduce unnecessary stress on your kidneys rather than adding to it. You don't need perfection. You don't need expensive superfoods. You simply need consistency. Small improvements practiced every day often produce far greater results than dramatic changes that last only a week. So before you worry about miracle cures or complicated diets, start with the simplest question of all. What will I choose to eat when I wake up tomorrow? That single decision has more power than most people realize. Your kidneys protect you every minute of every day. Let your first meal be the way you return the favor. Now that we've established why your first meal matters so much, the next question becomes obvious. What should that meal actually look like? The answer is much simpler than most people expect. It isn't about finding exotic ingredients or expensive health products. In fact, one of the most powerful changes you can make is choosing foods that are as close to their natural state as possible while keeping sodium under control. One of the biggest hidden threats to kidney health isn't always the sugar we can taste, it's the salt we often don't even notice. Sodium is everywhere. It's packed into frozen breakfasts, canned soups, breakfast sandwiches, processed meats, flavored instant oatmeal, boxed pancake mixes, and many foods marketed as quick and convenient. You may not think your breakfast is particularly salty, but when you start reading nutrition labels, the numbers can be surprising. Why does this matter so much? Because sodium has a direct effect on blood pressure. When you consume too much sodium, your body holds on to more water. That extra fluid increases the volume of blood circulating through your blood vessels, forcing your heart to work harder and placing additional pressure on your kidneys. Over time, persistently high blood pressure can damage the tiny filtering units inside the kidneys, making it harder for them to do the job they were designed to do. For someone already living with kidney disease, this becomes even more important. Damaged kidneys often have a reduced ability to maintain the body's delicate balance of fluids and minerals. Excess sodium can contribute to swelling, fluid retention, and further increases in blood pressure. That's why reducing sodium isn't simply about following a rule. It's about reducing unnecessary stress on an organ that's already working under difficult conditions. The challenge is that sodium isn't just added from the salt shaker. In fact, most of the sodium people consume comes from processed and packaged foods. You could skip adding salt to your meal entirely and still consume far more sodium than your body needs if your breakfast comes out of a box, a wrapper, or a drive-through window. That's why I encourage patients to stop thinking about nutrients in isolation and start thinking about food quality. Ask yourself a simple question. Did this food come from a factory or did it come from nature? The closer your breakfast resembles real food, the easier it becomes to avoid excessive sodium and unnecessary additives. For example, compare a fast food breakfast sandwich with a simple meal prepared at home. One is often loaded with processed meat, refined bread, preservatives, and large amounts of sodium. The other might include plain oats, eggs if appropriate for your individual dietary plan, fresh vegetables, or a small serving of fruit suited to your kidney health needs. Both may satisfy your hunger, but they create very different environments inside your body. Whole foods also tend to provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, and natural compounds that support overall metabolic health. Fiber, in particular, slows digestion, helps stabilize blood sugar, and supports a healthier gut microbiome. While fiber doesn't directly repair the kidneys, improving metabolic health can reduce some of the factors that contribute to kidney damage over time. Another important point is that healthy labels can be misleading. A product may advertise itself as low fat, heart healthy, or made with whole grains, yet still contain hundreds of milligrams of sodium and a long list of processed ingredients. Marketing is designed to sell products, not necessarily to improve your health. The nutrition facts panel tells a much more honest story than the front of the package ever will. This doesn't mean you must prepare elaborate breakfasts every morning. Simplicity often wins. A bowl of plain oatmeal, fresh vegetables alongside breakfast, or other minimally processed options require very little preparation, but can make a meaningful difference when chosen consistently. Remember, your goal isn't culinary perfection. Your goal is creating an environment where your kidneys don't have to fight unnecessary battles every single day. It's also worth remembering that no single meal determines your health. You don't damage your kidneys with one breakfast, and you don't heal them with one breakfast either. What matters is the pattern. Day after day, week after week, your choices accumulate. Small improvements become meaningful because they're repeated over and over again. So instead of chasing the latest superfood or miracle ingredient, focus on something much more powerful: real food, fewer processed products, and less hidden sodium. Those simple choices can reduce the burden on your kidneys while supporting your overall health in ways that last far beyond the breakfast table. The healthiest breakfast isn't the most complicated one, it's the one that gives your kidneys less work to do. Once you've started replacing processed foods with whole, lower sodium options, the next piece of the puzzle becomes incredibly important: keeping your blood sugar under control. This is where many people unknowingly make choices that place tremendous stress on their kidneys, especially first thing in the morning. If you've ever eaten a breakfast that's mostly refined carbohydrates, a couple of slices of white toast with jam, a sugary cereal, a muffin, or a large glass of fruit juice, you've probably experienced what happens next. You feel energized for a little while, maybe even fantastic. But before long, your energy crashes, you're hungry again, and you're reaching for another snack or another cup of coffee. That cycle isn't just affecting your appetite, it's a reflection of what's happening inside your body. Every time your blood sugar rises sharply, your body responds by releasing insulin. Insulin is an essential hormone, but when it's constantly elevated because of frequent spikes in blood sugar, your cells gradually become less responsive to it. This is known as insulin resistance, and it's one of the driving forces behind type 2 diabetes and many other metabolic problems. Why does this matter for your kidneys? Because high blood sugar is one of the leading causes of kidney damage worldwide. Over time, excess glucose in the bloodstream damages the tiny blood vessels that make up the kidney's filtering system. These filters are incredibly delicate. They're designed to clean your blood efficiently for decades, but they were never meant to be exposed to persistently high sugar levels day after day, year after year. Think of those filters like an incredibly fine coffee filter. If you continually force thick, sticky liquid through it, eventually it begins to wear out. It doesn't happen overnight, it's a gradual process. The same is true for your kidneys. The damage often develops silently, long before symptoms appear. That's why prevention is so powerful. One of the simplest ways to reduce those repeated blood sugar surges is by changing what you eat for breakfast. Instead of beginning the day with foods that digest almost immediately, choose foods that digest more slowly and provide a steadier release of energy. Fiber plays a major role here. Foods that naturally contain fiber slow the absorption of carbohydrates, helping prevent dramatic swings in blood glucose. Rather than flooding your bloodstream with sugar all at once, they provide a more gradual release that requires less insulin. Your body appreciates that stability, and so do your kidneys. Protein can also contribute to a more satisfying breakfast. For many people, including an appropriate amount of protein helps reduce hunger and supports more stable blood sugar throughout the morning. However, this is where kidney disease requires an individualized approach. People with chronic kidney disease may have different protein recommendations depending on the stage of their condition, their nutritional status, and advice from their healthcare team. More protein isn't always better. The right amount is the amount that's appropriate for your specific medical situation. Healthy fats can also help create a balanced meal. They slow digestion, improve satiety, and reduce the temptation to snack on sugary foods later in the morning. When you combine fiber, appropriate amounts of protein, and healthy fats, you're building a breakfast that works with your metabolism instead of against it. Another mistake I often see is the assumption that foods labeled as natural are automatically harmless. Honey is still sugar. Maple syrup is still sugar. Fruit juice, even without added sugar, delivers large amounts of rapidly absorbed sugar because much of the fiber has been removed. Your body responds to the glucose entering your bloodstream, not to the marketing language on the label. This doesn't mean you have to fear every carbohydrate. Whole foods that contain carbohydrates can absolutely fit into a healthy breakfast. The goal isn't eliminating carbohydrates entirely. The goal is choosing carbohydrates that come packaged with fiber and nutrients instead of refined starches and added sugars. Context matters far more than extremes. It's also worth remembering that consistency beats perfection. You don't have to create the ideal breakfast every single morning. Life happens, there will be busy days and special occasions. What matters is the overall pattern. If most mornings begin with foods that keep your blood sugar steady instead of sending it on a roller coaster, you're giving your kidneys one less challenge to deal with every day. And here's something encouraging. These choices don't just benefit your kidneys. Stable blood sugar often means steadier energy, fewer cravings, improved concentration, and better metabolic health overall. You're not simply protecting one organ, you're supporting your entire body. When you stop chasing quick energy and start building steady energy, you give your kidneys exactly what they need most: stability. Now, after talking about food, there's another topic that almost always comes up whenever people discuss kidney health, and that's water. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that the solution to almost every health problem is simply to drink more water. You'll hear people say, just keep flushing your kidneys, or the more water you drink, the cleaner your kidneys become. It sounds logical, but the human body doesn't actually work that way. Your kidneys are remarkable organs because they're constantly filtering your blood. They don't wait until you drink a large bottle of water before they begin working. They're doing their job every minute of every day. Water supports that process, but it doesn't force your kidneys to work better by overwhelming them with more fluid than they need. Think about it this way. Imagine a washing machine. It needs the right amount of water to clean your clothes properly. Too little water and it can't do its job efficiently. But if you keep pouring in more and more water beyond what the machine is designed to use, the clothes don't become cleaner. In fact, you may create entirely new problems. Your kidneys function in a similar way. They need appropriate hydration, not excessive hydration. For people with healthy kidneys, the body usually does an excellent job of regulating fluid balance. You become thirsty when you need water, and your kidneys adjust how much water they can serve or eliminate throughout the day. It's an incredibly sophisticated system. However, when kidney function declines, that balance becomes much more complicated. Some people with chronic kidney disease still need to stay well hydrated, while others may actually need to limit their fluid intake because their kidneys can no longer remove excess fluid efficiently. This is why there is no universal recommendation that applies to everyone with kidney disease. That's one of the reasons I'm cautious whenever I hear blanket advice on social media telling everyone to drink 3 liters, 4 liters, or even a gallon of water every day. That advice ignores one very important fact. Kidney disease isn't the same for every patient. Someone in the early stages of kidney disease may have completely different fluid needs than someone receiving dialysis. The person with heart failure may have different recommendations than someone without cardiovascular disease. Even medications can influence how much fluid your body should be taking in. That's why personalized medical advice is always more valuable than internet slogans. So what should you do in the morning? Start by paying attention to your body's needs, and more importantly, follow the guidance you've received from your healthcare team. If your doctor or renal dietitian has given you a daily fluid goal, that's the recommendation that matters most. Don't replace individualized medical advice with general rules you happen to read online. Hydration also isn't only about water itself. The foods you choose contribute to your body's overall fluid balance. Fresh vegetables, appropriate fruits, soups where suitable, and other whole foods naturally contain water along with vitamins and minerals. That means hydration isn't just something you drink, it's also part of what you eat. Another common mistake is confusing thirst with the desire for sweet beverages. Many people wake up and immediately reach for fruit juice, sweetened coffee drinks, energy drinks, or soft drinks instead of plain water. These beverages often provide large amounts of sugar and, in some cases, sodium as well, creating exactly the kind of metabolic stress we've been discussing throughout this talk. Starting your morning with these drinks may satisfy your taste buds, but it doesn't necessarily support your kidneys. A simple glass of water alongside a balanced breakfast is often all that's needed for many people, unless your healthcare provider has recommended something different. There's no need to turn hydration into a competition. More isn't automatically better. Better is better. The same principle applies throughout nearly every aspect of nutrition. We often assume that if something is good, then twice as much must be even better. But biology rarely works that way. Whether we're talking about calories, vitamins, supplements, or fluids, balance almost always wins over extremes. As you continue building healthier morning habits, remember that hydration is just one piece of the picture. Water cannot compensate for a diet full of processed foods. It cannot erase consistently high blood sugar. It cannot undo years of uncontrolled blood pressure. But when combined with thoughtful food choices and individualized medical care, proper hydration supports the incredible work your kidneys are already trying to do. The goal isn't to drown your kidneys with water. The goal is to support them with balance every single day. Now that we've talked about balanced hydration, let's turn our attention to the kinds of foods that can genuinely support your kidneys over the long term. This is often where people start searching for a superfood. They want to know which one fruit, vegetable, or seed will cleanse their kidneys or repair years of damage. I understand the appeal of that idea, but the truth is both simpler and more encouraging. Your kidneys don't need one miracle food. They benefit from a consistent pattern of nourishing choices. One of the most important things to understand is that the kidneys do not work in isolation. They are connected to nearly every system in your body. The health of your heart affects your kidneys. Your blood vessels affect your kidneys. Your blood sugar affects your kidneys. Even chronic inflammation throughout the body can influence how well your kidneys function over time. That means the foods that support overall metabolic and cardiovascular health often support kidney health as well. Let's start with fiber because it's one of the most overlooked nutrients in modern diets. Fiber doesn't just help digestion, it slows the absorption of carbohydrates, helping to keep blood sugar on a more even course. It also supports a healthier community of bacteria in your digestive system. A healthy gut may influence inflammation throughout the body. And while fiber is not a treatment for kidney disease, improving overall metabolic health can reduce some of the pressures that contribute to kidney damage. This is one reason whole foods are so valuable. Vegetables, appropriately selected fruits, legumes for those whose healthcare team recommends them, and whole grains in suitable portions all provide fiber that refined foods simply don't. When you replace processed breakfast foods with whole food options, you're not just removing harmful ingredients, you are adding beneficial ones. Antioxidant-rich foods are another area that receives a great deal of attention, and for good reason. Every day, our cells produce molecules known as free radicals as part of normal metabolism. In excess, these molecules can contribute to oxidative stress, which is associated with aging and many chronic diseases. Foods naturally rich in antioxidants help the body maintain a healthy balance. Colorful berries are one example that often comes up in conversations about healthy eating. Depending on an individual's kidney function and potassium needs, moderate portions of berries may fit well into a kidney friendly eating plan because they provide fiber and naturally occurring plant compounds. But remember, no single berry has magical healing powers. It's the overall dietary pattern that matters most. Healthy fats also deserve a place in this discussion. For years, many people were taught to fear all fats. Yet we've learned that the type of fat matters far more than simply the amount. Unsaturated fats, such as those found in olive oil, nuts, seeds, and certain other whole foods, can be part of a balanced eating pattern for many people. They promote satiety, support heart health, and make meals more satisfying, helping reduce the temptation to rely on highly processed snacks later in the day. Of course, with kidney disease, personalization remains essential. Some foods that are generally considered healthy may contain significant amounts of potassium or phosphorus. Depending on the stage of kidney disease, some individuals may need to monitor these nutrients carefully, while others may not. That's why it's so important not to copy someone else's meal plan simply because it worked for them. Your kidneys are unique, and your nutrition plan should be as well. This brings us to an important principle that often gets overlooked. Don't become so focused on individual foods that you lose sight of the whole picture. I've seen people add a handful of berries to a breakfast that's otherwise loaded with sugar and processed ingredients, believing they've made it healthy. Nutrition doesn't work like that. One healthy ingredient cannot cancel out an unhealthy dietary pattern. Instead, think of your breakfast as a team. Whole foods rich in fiber, appropriate portions of protein based on your medical needs, healthy fats, and minimally processed ingredients all work together. None of them has to carry the entire burden alone. It's the combination that creates a meal capable of supporting steady blood sugar, healthier blood pressure, and better overall metabolic function. Another benefit of this approach is that it's sustainable. You're not relying on expensive supplements or hard to find ingredients. You're building habits around foods that can become part of your daily life. That's how lasting change happens, not through short-term enthusiasm, but through choices you can continue making month after month and year after year. When people ask me what the best food for their kidneys is, I often tell them they're asking the wrong question. The better question is, what pattern of eating helps my entire body function more efficiently? When you answer that question consistently, your kidneys are among the organs that benefit. Healthy kidneys are supported by healthy habits, and healthy habits begin one thoughtful meal at a time. As we come to the end of this discussion, I want to leave you with one final thought. Everything we've talked about today, choosing a better breakfast, reducing processed foods, keeping blood sugar steady, staying appropriately hydrated, and building meals around whole foods is important. But none of these ideas will change your health unless they become part of your daily routine. That's where real transformation happens. People often ask me, what's the single best thing I can do for my kidneys? They're expecting one food, one supplement, or one secret that changes everything. But health rarely works that way. It's usually the small decisions you repeat every day that have the greatest impact over time. Think about your morning for a moment. The first hour after you wake up often determines the direction of the rest of your day. If you begin that hour feeling rushed, grabbing highly processed food, skipping your medications, and leaving the house without any plan, those choices tend to carry forward. But if your morning starts with intention, everything else becomes a little easier. A healthy morning routine doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler it is, the more likely you'll stick with it. Wake up at a consistent time whenever possible. Give yourself a few moments before immediately reaching for your phone. Have a balanced breakfast that fits your individual kidney care plan. Drink fluids according to the recommendations you've been given. Take your prescribed medications exactly as directed. These aren't dramatic changes, but together they create a powerful foundation. If your healthcare provider has recommended light physical activity, even a short walk after breakfast can become part of that routine. You don't need an intense workout to experience benefits. Gentle movement supports circulation, helps with blood sugar regulation, and contributes to overall well being. The goal isn't athletic performance, the goal is consistency. Another habit that's worth developing is planning ahead. Many unhealthy breakfast choices happen because people simply run out of time. When you're rushing out the door, convenience usually wins. That's why preparing ingredients the night before or deciding in advance what you'll eat can make a tremendous difference. When healthy choices are easy choices, you're much more likely to follow through. I also encourage people to stop thinking in terms of perfection. One unhealthy breakfast doesn't undo months of healthy eating, just as one healthy breakfast doesn't erase years of unhealthy habits. If you have a difficult day, don't treat it as failure, treat it as one day. The next morning gives you another opportunity to make a better choice. This mindset is especially important for people living with chronic kidney disease. Managing a long-term condition can sometimes feel overwhelming. There are medications to remember, appointments to attend, lab results to monitor, and dietary recommendations that may change over time. It's easy to become discouraged if you expect perfection from yourself. Instead, focus on progress. Celebrate the habits you are building. Every morning that you choose whole foods instead of processed foods is progress. Every day that you keep your blood sugar steadier is progress. Every time you follow your individualized fluid recommendations, take your medications, or prepare a healthier meal, you're investing in your future health.